Sea Kings by Worthington Games, a game that comes in a very nice and sturdy box, so right there the production values seem to be higher than the ones you have in many Worthington games. They tend to come in boxes that are not as nice. With the designer of this game is Leo Pulsifer, very famous designer among other things of Britannia, and the theme is Vikings. With the popularity of the TV show, I guess it was only a matter of time before Vikings came back in style. And here we have a game where you can play the role of a group of Vikings that goes around Europe, raiding, settling, trading, discovering things. You know, all the typical Viking things. So, who wants to be the next Viking king? I don't know, players of this game, I assume, because that is kind of the point. In truth, this game is a fairly abstract Euro game. Yes, you have the Vikings, yes, you have theme as described on the cards and on other components that try to be evocative, but in truth this is really a fairly abstract and very simple, casual Euro game. Let me show you how the game works. This is the board of the game. It is a mounted board, and I have to tell, it looks really nice. I really like the look of this board. It is also very easy to read. You have a turn track. No, what am I talking about? You have a score track around the board, and then on the board you have areas where you'll place your game pieces, connections that you use for movement from an area to another. Some areas are marked in red as areas that you cannot settle in. And then the only other relevant piece of information is the number that you see in each region represents the value of the region, and it is used for various game purposes. Everything else on the map is just decoration, window dressing, but nice. I mean, just really nice the overall look of the map. Each player in the game has a ship representing the main area of operations of their group. Each player also has 3 score markers, and these are wealth, fame, and land, respectively. Then you will use a deck of cards to represent the actions of the players. This is a deck that has 2 types of cards, mainly regular cards with a black back and then special cards with a red back. When players are drawing from the deck and the next card is a red one, then you resolve it immediately and you simply resolve the effect. You simply follow the instructions on the text. With the text on the card. Usually these are location-based things that give you special advantages that allow you to do things, but they are completely based on the location in which you are, so you may not get that benefits, they may not be of any use to you. But the majority of cards actually are, these are the cards with a dark back, they're regular cards and they're used to perform actions. However, we also have cards to indicate who you are. What character are you playing? At the beginning of the game, each player receives a card from this set here, and each character has a different ability, a different trait. It's good to have different traits. Game-wise, these things are good, but the art on these cards is definitely subpar, especially when you see that everything else in the game looks so neat. You have these characters with these freakishly large heads, joints that are attached at weird angles. Too bad that they couldn't hire an artist that could produce better work. But that's a minor complaint. I have much bigger complaints about the game. On the back of the card, of each character card, you have a player rate. So each player gets a card with a character and uses another one as the player rate. Now, when it is your turn, you can perform 2 or 3 actions. The number depends on the number of players. You can perform them in any order. You can perform the same action twice in a turn, but no more than twice. For an action, you can move to an adjacent area following a connection. If you start your turn in the same area as another player, actually you can challenge them, in which case the players roll dice. There is a bonus of +1 for the attacker, a bonus of +1 for the player with the highest wealth, and +1 the player with the highest fame. If there's a tie, nothing happens. If one of the players has a highest total, then the player steals a point of fame or wealth from the opponent. So pretty risky, pretty random thing there. For an action, you can draw a card from the deck. You don't replenish your hand of cards automatically. And for an action, of course, you can play a card. You can play a card from your hand. The game has no minimum or maximum hand of cards. So for all I know, this could be my hand of cards. This would be pretty bad, a bad idea. But theoretically, that is possible. Playing cards allows you to do things such as settling, trading, discovering, and raiding. Now there are also other cards that give you special, again we have those special cards, but there are cards that give you unique benefits. There are cards that allow you to interrupt the player's actions and mess with them, and they are marked by that corner there. Again, cards with unique one-time advantages that give you, for example, extra actions, but the majority of the cards will be of this type and will indicate the main actions that you will perform during the game to score points: settling, trading, discovering, or raiding. Let's just start from discovering. To perform a discover action, you simply need to be in the corresponding location, you spend an action to play the card, and you score the value of the region in fame points. As simple as that. To trade is very similar. You need to be in the location indicated on your card. You spend an action to play the card, and then you score half of the value of the region in wealth. This is the commodity that you receive by trading. As you start seeing, these actions are all location-based. So if I'm in an area and I keep getting cards that connect me to possible actions around that area, then I'm gonna perform a lot of actions, I'm gonna play a lot of cards, score a lot of points. If I keep drawing cards that force me to run from one side of the board to another, then I'm gonna waste a lot of actions in movement, and I'm gonna have way fewer chances than other players to complete actions and score points, but such is the nature of the game. These two actions, raiding and settling, have one thing in common, which is they're not automatic like trade and discover. When you play them and spend an action to perform the corresponding action, you have to roll dice to see if you're successful. Both tests, the test for both actions is resolved in the same way. You, the player, roll a die and add a standard number of +4, that's your standard bonus. An opponent rolls a die for the location that you're trying to raid or to settle. Yeah, the location may resist to your settlement, maybe they don't like you. So another player rolls a die for the region, adds the value of the region, and you, the player, successful in your action if you rolled higher than the defense roll of the region. If you're unsuccessful, nothing happens. You simply wasted that action. If you do manage to perform your raid or settlement successfully, of course, you score. For a successful raid, you get to score half of the value of the region in wealth or the value of the region in fame. For settling, you get to score the value of the region in land points. And that's really pretty much the idea. Move around, attack other people occasionally, but not very often really. Try to complete actions, and try to exploit game effects. Hope mainly that you will get cards that allow you to do stuff around where you are. Hope that when the effects of the cards with the red back are triggered, you are in a region that allows you to benefit from those effects. Continue like this, playing cards, completing cards, scoring points until the end of the game, which is when the deck is exhausted. At that point, there is a final adjustment to the total score. The player that has the highest value in each category gets a bonus. The player with the lowest value in each category gets a penalty. After those adjustments, you total the points the players received from all categories, and the player with the highest total is the winner of the game. Now, in the introduction, I said that this is a Eurogame in the sense that it has some of the things that we see in Eurogames. High production values, those meeples and wooden bits. It has an economic element, it is fairly abstract, it has linear mechanics, etc., etc. It's not a pure Euro in the sense that there is a large luck component, and that's usually something we see more in war games or in thematic games than we see in Euro games. And I usually don't mind luck. If you watch my reviews of war games, you see that I rarely complain about luck, about having too much of it. Usually, sometimes I complain that there isn't enough luck in a game, because when you try to simulate complex events such as warfare, then you need to have the random element, the unpredictability, the fog of war, that mystical, mysterious element of war that always defies human calculations and plans. That is to say, I didn't like Sea Kings too much, but because it had too much luck. I don't know, the segue wasn't really all that smooth. I usually don't mind luck in games, but there's nothing else in this game. I like luck in war games when that interacts with the strategy, throws challenges at me, forces me to revise my strategy. Here, the luck dictates everything. It's not about I have a certain strategy, I feel that I have a certain idea, and there will be more challenges that will emerge. It's either or. You get the good cards or you don't get the good cards, and there's anything you can do to try to push things your way. You roll dice, and yes, you look at the board and you look at the score, and you see if you have a +1, maybe even a +2. Woohoo! But there may be cases where you have +1, the opponent has a +1, you attack the opponent, then you get another +1. Still, it's not like winning war games. You do really some hard work to get a good ratio, and then you have good chances, etc., etc. In good strategy games, in good games that have luck creates unpredictable events, but still overall, in the big scheme of things, a good play is rewarded. I do not know what good play is here. If there is good play, really simply to go for the next obvious thing, which is to go for the next close thing that the card gave you, and hope that when a special event happens that may potentially affect everybody, you're in the right location. But if I have cards around me that give me points, I'm probably gonna go for those, and maybe those are for good territories, those are good points. Whereas the opponent keeps getting cards that are scattered all around. Yes, you can keep drawing cards and spend actions until you do find something, but that, again, is simply something that you do not necessarily have to do if you got the good cards in the right combo. So there is a little bit that aspect, or there's a lot of that aspect of the luck of the draw dictates everything. No, not everything. The other part of the everything is dictated by the luck of the roll of the dice, and the choices are very simple, are very obvious. There are no tough decisions. So to me, this is the problem. I think it could work as a very casual game if you're, yes, I mean, or with very young gamers. Probably in a 7-8-year-old, then the strategy is obvious, and the young player is happy that the strategy is in fact obvious, visible, democratic game. Einstein probably cannot have a better strategy in this game than you can, because it's impossible. So maybe the one of those games that with so much luck that it evens out the differences between adults and children. As an adult, you do not have to lower your abilities, because in any case, this is not really a game that I feel really rewards ability, planning, etc., etc., etc. There are some extra rules that add complexity, but optional rules that you can add to add complexity make the game a little more confrontational, but in truth, they don't really alter the game. It remains a complete luck fest with components that are of very discontinuous quality, and the experience is not that it's terrible. It's kind of like a meh thing. I go around, I traded, I discovered, I got some points here and there. At the end, you have this like meh feel that you didn't hate it, but it really wasn't anything to love or particularly like. If you lost the game, you can blame luck entirely. If you won the game, you don't feel all that proud because again, maybe next time you'll play with exactly the same strategy and the game will go completely different way. Just not much of a game in there. I think that's the problem. Not much of a game, not a very gripping experience. So, in conclusion, a pretty disappointing experience. Not too terrible, but not much of a game in there, not much to hold my interest for the time it takes to play the game. Sea Kings by Worthington Game. If you're looking for a game to play with your kids and there isn't much thinking involved, well, that's maybe it. But other than that, I don't see this game really having many uses, at least not in my collection personally.